Hello and good morning. Thank you for being here with me today. I have a lot to go through today, so I'm really excited that you're here. And we have some interesting data and insights to uncover as well. Homeowner equity growth. Equity has still grown tremendously. This was the Q1 CoreLogic homeowner equity report. And on average, across the U.S., homeowners made about $28,000 in the past year. So from Q1 2023 to Q1 2024, they made about $28,000 in home equity. Now you can see there are some very clear winners. So number one was California. They brought in the most, which was $64,000 on average of home equity. Massachusetts was number two at $61,000, and New Jersey was number three at $59,000. So you can kind of look at your state and see how your state performed on average. There are also some takeaways from this homeowner equity report. 62% of homes in the U.S. have a mortgage, so it was just slightly up from the last report, and there was an increase of $1.5 trillion in home equity. This is a considerable growth from the last report. You can see almost 10% growth, 9.6% growth. There's that average again of $28,000 that on average a homeowner made in equity. And the good news is only 2% of mortgaged properties are in a negative equity position. So by and large, homeowners are in a good spot as far as their equity is concerned. Here's some information on Front Door. And what Front Door did is they analyzed all of the homes that were updated and repaired from Zillow across the US, and they drilled it down to the top 10 cities where you can get the biggest boost in your value by renovating. And so you can see that number one was Toledo, Ohio. We've got Detroit, Michigan at number two, Springfield, Illinois, Jackson, Michigan, Cleveland, Ohio, St. Louis, Missouri, Wilmington, Delaware. Look at Michigan is just like, it has three of the top 10 because there's Lansing, Michigan. Number 9 was Montgomery, Alabama, and number 10 was Topeka, Kansas. What we know is that this repair strategy can work really well. And I'm always showing you the data. And here's what NAR found when they surveyed sellers, what was important to them in picking an agent. And all sellers wanted help selling their home within a specific time frame. But what we constantly see near the top of this list is sellers are also looking for ways to fix up their home so that they can sell it for more and so that they can make more money. And the neat thing about the Fix It and List It is it's a strategy that you can use, and you can help bring a renovated property to market that's going to sell for more and make that seller more money due to the structured payout of the sale. And it's also a cash offer, so that seller never has to list their home on the open market. They don't have to live through the home while it's being repaired. So a lot of benefits come through this program. And I'm constantly showing you things like this, how this Zoodealio member made their seller $112,000 more. This was one that we did in Jacksonville, Florida, where the home just did so much better with the repair strategy. If you can imagine when you're taking a home like this to the market, and we've all done it. We've all had the home that doesn't show well because of the condition or the interior contents or both. And what we know is it's always a little bit of a challenge. Sometimes it sells for way lower than the seller would have liked because of that discount that the buyer is looking for to kind of take care of these items on their own once that home becomes theirs. So we know that there's definitely benefit into updating, remodeling, making slight improvements, that sort of thing. And when done properly, it can have a pretty substantial impact on that final price. So this was one that the home sold for $112,000. Profit increased more, and that means that was after the repair cost was taken out. You can see here after that program fee was factored out. And so this was just a scenario where the seller made way more money $112,000 more money. They didn't have to put their house on the open market. They leveraged the equity in their home to have it repaired. And I'm going to show you how in just a moment. And then here's another one. I love this one because it was such a big number, $140,000 more. This was in Coral Springs, Florida. The home just needed some work. There were a lot of DIY projects that hadn't been fixed. You can see the flooring. The seller was kind of in the process of doing that and just was done, just ready to move on to their next venture. And so the buyer was able to go in and make these repairs on their behalf after they moved out. And the result is just a beautiful home that's brought to market that sells for more money and usually way quicker as well. So here was one that I just thought, they smashed it on, the seller smashed it on it. Bringing this home to market is completely different, right? Like if you were to have to sell a home with all of that in there, we've done it and we can do it, but definitely nice when it's clean and fresh and move-in ready. And with home prices where they're at and with interest rates where they're at, buyers do love move-in ready, especially now. And so I love showing these because it just gives us that vision of what's possible when a little bit of energy and effort and money is invested into the property to bring it back to life. So here was another one that was just wonderful. Great to see this. Always love to see sellers make more money utilizing these strategies. So what I really want to do though, is I want to make sure that we completely understand how this works, because I'm getting a lot of feedback from our offers team that there's a disconnect here on the repairs. And so I want to go through the sequence of exactly how it works. And then I have a breakdown for you as well that's going to show the numbers and how that works as well. So this is the Cash Plus with repairs, now known as the Fix It and List It. So it gives that seller the convenience and certainty of a cash offer. And it also gives them all of the benefits of selling their home on the open market, because this is a fee-based offer. It is not a margin-based offer. So in other words, the buyer isn't looking to come in and offer low, resell the property high, and then make all of that margin. Instead, with this offer, the buyer only makes their program fee. It's also that wonderful no out-of-pocket home improvement strategy that is just so wonderful for sellers, especially when their home needs a little bit of TLC, or even when other homes in the neighborhood have been updated, theirs isn't. And if it were to be updated, it would sell for a lot more. So there are 3 steps to this offer as we like to kind of break it down. And the first step is that offer is intended to be a full market value cash offer. So again, if you get the offer back and it's lower or higher, please communicate that with us. We want to hit it right. Now, the second step is the reserve. And the way the buyer is able to make a full market value cash offer to the seller is by holding a percentage of their equity as a security instrument until the property is resold. And then based on what the property is resold on the open market for, that reserve is then dispersed to the seller. I'm going to break that down for you in just a moment. And then also the fees are very transparent in this offer. There is a program fee, there are agent commissions and resale closing costs, and then the repair costs as well. So let's go through. I mentioned the full market value cash offer. The biggest exclamation point here is if it's not that full market value cash offer, communicate that to us. Now, keep in mind, this full market value cash offer with this repair strategy may be higher because that market offer is taking into consideration these repairs are going to be made. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, number 2 is that reserve. As I mentioned, it's a portion of the seller's equity. It is held back until that second sale, and it's dispersed back to that seller on the final resale price. So typically we see anywhere from 10 to 25% reserve being assessed. So Arthur, in Florida, there are certain parts of Florida where that reserve has increased a little bit just due to the amount of inventory that's coming on the market in those certain areas. You could also see a higher reserve in, let's say, a $2 million home. So there are certain circumstances where the reserve may be more, and then there are certain circumstances where the reserve may be less. Like, let's say it's in a market that has a plethora of comps that's moving fairly quickly, and in that scenario, you might see a lower reserve. So keep that in mind, that it's not a set number. It does change. And at any time, you can always ask why that reserve is where it is, because the underwriters will actually, if you've received their reporting back, they have a very sophisticated reporting and system that they use. So if you ever have questions on that, they will happily share that with you. Okay, as I mentioned, the program fees, there's a 6% program fee. There are 7.5% for agent commissions and resale closing costs. Let me break these down for you. So the program fee it covers the buyer's cost of capital. Obviously, they're purchasing this property. There's a cost to using that capital, and this fee covers their cost. Now, it's also going to cover some of the homeownership costs. So it's going to cover the insurance. So as soon as that buyer purchases the property, the homeowner will no longer need to have their insurance. They'll be able to cancel that, and the insurance will be taken over by the buyer. It's also going to cover the property taxes, any HOA fees, the water, sewer, trash, electricity, gas, all of that, etc., during that resale timeframe. So there's a cost savings to the homeowner here as well. So keep that in mind. So for instance, like if a seller was putting their home on the market and it sat for a few months, all of these costs would be costs that they would be incurring. In this scenario, the buyer now will be incurring these costs. So the 7.5% agent commissions and resale closing costs this one's pretty simple. This is how you get paid, and it also covers some of the closing costs on that resale. So here is how the commission's broken down. We love that you get to keep the listing. So you are going to work with the buyer to relist that property. That way you can ensure that it sells for the highest amount possible. You get paid 2% when the buyer purchases the property from the seller. You also get paid an additional 4.5% when the property is resold on the open market. 2.5% of that is offered up as a buyer broker commission. In the event there's no buyer broker, then obviously you would be getting both sides of that. We are getting asked a lot of questions on, are we going to be nixing that come August 17th when all of these commission changes come down the pike? And as long as we're able, Zoodealio exists for real estate professionals. We exist to keep you inserted in the real estate transaction. So as long as legal and feasibly possible, we do not want to nix that offering. Now, if MLSs won't allow it to be displayed, then it's just going to be something that maybe there's a concessions field and it can be put in there, or maybe it's something that just you as the agent will have to communicate a little too soon to tell how all those changes are going to come out. But Zoodealio exists for real estate professionals, and so we believe in buyer agency. We believe in buyer agency compensation, and so that is going to remain just an integral part of how we operate and do business. So this is the next part I want to focus on, and this is the repairs. There's been some confusion around how this works, and the confusion is that a lot of agents think that the reserve that's taken is used to then make the repairs, and that is actually not the case. If repairs are going to be made, then there will be a cost to those repairs. It will be presented to the homeowner during the inspection period, and then the homeowner can decide whether or not they want to proceed with that strategy. If they do want to proceed with that strategy, then the cost of those repairs is also taken at close of escrow in addition to the reserve. So I really wanted to hit on this for a moment because I wanted to make sure that I'm not adding to the confusion when I'm sharing this with you. And so here's how it goes down. So seller accepts the buyer's offer. And then the buyer will do a home inspection, usually just a home inspection. If it's a little bit of older property, they may do a sewer scope, that sort of thing. Now, during that inspection timeframe, what's going to happen is a couple things. Maybe you know the property needs repairs and you communicate that to the buyer and you specifically say, hey, look, this property is going to need some repairs and renovating. We understand that. Please have the buyer bid those out during the inspection period. So you can tell us, you can communicate that to us, right? The buyer also many times will provide that option to the homeowner regardless, because if there's a property that can use a little bit of repairs, their underwriters see that, and during that inspection period, they may just on their own propose repairs to that homeowner in order to be made so that that home sells for more money on the open market. So that's essentially how it works. So then that homeowner, when they look at that cost, they know exactly what that's going to be right off the bat. So they're going to get an estimate. It's going to itemize out what those repairs are. It's going to estimate out what the cost of those repairs are. And then if they agree to it, then that will be deducted from their first payout along with the reserve. So wanted to just really be crystal clear on that. And if you guys have any questions on how this works, we are here to help. Call our offers team, chat with our offers team through your platform, email our offers team. We're here to help. We want to make sure that our goal and my heart, I'll just share with you, is that anyone that is considering this offer knows exactly how it works. I don't like surprises, and I don't think that you or homeowners do either. And so we really want to help educate and just share with you exactly how it works so that you guys are aware and they can really make a decision eyes wide open and if this is going to be a good offer for them or not. So again, if you need any help on this, please reach out to us. We would love to just communicate with you one-on-one and just give you, and oftentimes too, what's really neat is the offers team, they do this all day long, right? This is all they talk about all day long, every day. And so often they have other little nuggets and insights that we just don't because we're not in it all day long. And so they're wonderful to talk to, very proud of our team here. And they'll do their best to make sure that they fully explain all of the little idiosyncrasies of the offer to you. So quickly want to go through how this breakdown works, just to reiterate again, the structure. So this is just a hypothetical. Let's say the offer amount was $500,000. Now keep in mind, if we're making repairs and the offer amount's $500,000, that home probably would not have sold for $500,000, right? Like, keep that in mind. This is the after repair value offer amount that they're getting. And then we're going to back out a program fee. We're going to back out the agent commissions and closing costs. We're going to back out a 10% reserve. And then in this scenario, we're going to say that repairs were $50,000. And so on that first payout, the homeowner would get $332,500 less the typical cost of sale and less any payouts that they have. So any mortgage, any liens, maybe if they had an HOA lien, any other liens would come off of that, okay? So keep that in mind. I wanna show you how the reserve is returned to the homeowner. There are really only 3 ways this can skin out. So let's say that home is then listed on the open market and it's gonna list at the $500,000. Sometimes, I'm just gonna put an asterisk here. Sometimes with the repair strategy, it warrants trying a little higher on the open market. And the buyer is okay with that. If the property's been repaired and we initially thought if it was repaired, it would get 500, but then after it was done, we're thinking like, oh, you know what? No, I think we could really do 525 on this. In that scenario, the buyer will allow you to push that price a little. So that's kind of cool. But for the sake of just demonstration and for numbers, let's say it resells for $500,000. In that scenario, 100% of the reserve is returned to the homeowner. And so they would get back an additional $50,000 on that second payout. Now, let's say the home sells for a little bit less. So it's listed at $500,000. It doesn't sell. There's a price reduction that happens and it ends up selling for $490. Well, in this scenario, what's going to happen is that difference of $10,000 is going to be deducted from the reserve, and the remaining portion, which is $40,000, is going to be returned to that homeowner. So the third way that this can skin out, which this is by far the funnest way, the best way, we love it when this happens, is that home sells for more on the open market. And you can see how certain properties, when repaired, when renovated, you can see how this could happen. And so in this scenario, let's say that house sells for $10,000 more on the open market. Well, they would receive all of the reserve, which was $50,000, plus what we call the upside of the open market, that additional $10,000. And so their second payout in that scenario would be $60,000. For me, I want to make sure that if I'm going in to a seller and I'm presenting this offer, I want to make sure that I know exactly how it works, because I want to make sure that I can then share with them exactly how it works. Any question marks on this, we're happy to work with you one-on-one, but we want to make sure that you are fully aware of how it works. Also, guys, if I could just also add in one emphasis, and that emphasis is you have an unfair advantage with these offers. And your unfair advantage is that cash plus and that fix it and list it, they do not die once you list the home on the open market. So for instance, when I showed you the offer dashboard and we saw the list on the market and all of the different cash offers, if the seller decides that, hey, I want to list my home on the open market because I don't want to pay an extra 6% to a program, I just want to see what the open market will bear. If they do that, that's great. I mean, that is what Zoodealio is all about. When we created Zoodealio, it was because we wanted a competitive edge against the iBuyers. We didn't want to fleece homeowners out of their equity. We wanted to give them a way where they could have a cash offer that was compelling, that gave them the certainty and the convenience, but also only made them pay a fee, not have them give up margin. But the cool thing is that what we know on the data is that most sellers list their home on the open market. Most sellers don't accept a cash offer, which is great because you get to give them what they want. Everybody wants to know what the cash offer option is on their home. You get to provide that for them. You essentially get to let them open the envelope of what that cash offer is. And then likely they're going to list their home on the open market with you. But the beautiful thing about these offers, and the emphasis that I want to add here, is they can be used as a hedge against the open market. So we're hearing more and more stories from agents across the US, across many markets, that are sharing with us that that is the primary way that they're able to really have a competitive edge against other agents, is if that seller lists with them and the home doesn't sell in the time frame that they were hoping it would sell in, you can always revisit the cash offer option. It's like hitting that eject button. It's like pulling the parachute. It's your security blanket, and it really gives them options. That way, if they do need to make a move sooner than they had intended, or maybe they just weren't anticipating how long it would take, you are able to supply those instant options for them. So always keep that in mind, that if you do go on and list on the open market, the offer doesn't die. It might adjust. For instance, like let's say that, you took a price reduction, maybe that offer would adjust a little, but it doesn't die. It is always something that the seller can revisit if it makes sense. All right. Thank you all for being here with me today. Everybody have a wonderful, fantastic week. And if we can do anything to serve and support you in your business, in these cash offerings, we are here for you. Appreciate you being here, and I will see you next time.